Hey there, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Bulls versus Bears, episode 14, Peace in the Middle East. Problem solved, guys.
That's it.
Yeah, and we welcoming, obviously, Kai, regular, boring old Kai, but we've got Finn Judell stepping in for JT this week. He's off glamping or something. He's a little bit. He's a little bit weary because he's been bearish 2 weeks in a row, which is 2 weeks more than I've ever known him. 2 weeks more than I've ever known him to be bearish in my life since working with him. But yeah, it was a bit of an interesting week in terms of being a short week. There were loads of bombs and everything go off, and then we came to this ceasefire. Now, technically, if we're going to keep to the word ceasefire, and I don't know if ceasefire actually translates well in Farsi or Arabic, but they're not very good at them, basically. They've had 250 ceasefires since 2010. Mainly, a lot of that's Israel, Gaza, Palestinian thing. They are 100% strike rate of breaking them.
100%. I didn't know it was that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's 100%. So, so very much tongue-in-cheek, that peace in the Middle East. Because, look, they've only been fighting each other for, 1,000 years? But 2,000 years. But it's measured in thousands. But, yeah, Israel's broken them. I think it was something like 266. Israel was 176. And it was Palestinian and other, with the other 75 or 80-odd. So we jokingly said in the office, so Pakistan requested, and this is what this timeline is here, Pakistan, which is the worst off, or the second worst off in terms of fuel shortage. So their prime minister requested a ceasefire, not on behalf of Iran. So let's just be really clear about that. And this was about 4 or 5 in the morning in Iran, or even earlier. So they're asleep, right? And then Trump comes out, he managed to organize a press conference within half an hour to accept that ceasefire proposal with the country that they're not even in a conflict with, they're not even at war with. And then so Iran's then woken up to basically going, well, if we're going to do a ceasefire, here's our 10-point plan. And then the Western media is just categorically just run with it and going, oh, well, it's a ceasefire. Israel not happy, and then within about 6 to 12 hours, they've gone, yeah, but Lebanon doesn't count, and they've killed 250 people and bombed Beirut. Iran's then said, well, that does count, and again, we maintain our 100% track record of ceasefires being broken. So yeah, but I've got to say, genius from Trump. Basically, he manufactured a fake ceasefire, and it kind of worked. It progressed things along.
Look at the S&P 500. In terms of that's his main metric, 4%. Right?
Well, yeah, that is categorically his only metric, really. Polling numbers don't mean anything. The net change on the S&P during his presidency is by far, and as he keeps reminding us, 70% last term. And Sleepy Joe only got half of that. But yeah, so we've already seen this largely break down. It wasn't really a ceasefire in the first place, but the main point is that America has decided that the war's over. So it doesn't really matter. Their equity market's whatever. We don't care what you say, as long as the Strait of Hormuz is open. And which it's not. There's no ships going through, but they have stopped firing missiles at each other. The US hasn't attacked. And we got this here. So only 4, it's a good definition of a ceasefire. Just a measly 4 attacks from Iran, 0 from the US, and it doesn't, not counting Israel, obviously. And
Lebanon doesn't count.
Yeah, Lebanon does. Well,
Yeah.
But then Israel is then, yeah, look, there's this whole, it's a bit hard to have a disagreement on a ceasefire that really didn't exist. The 10-point plan is never, ever, not even categorically ever going to happen. There's one point There's one point in there which is taking tolls for going through the Strait of Hormuz. That's the only one that's even above 50%, and as we rated it, and 5 of them are just ridiculous. It was borderline. Trump has to deliver the ceasefire agreement in a dress or something like that. It was just so stupid. So, but Finn, it's lucky we got you on. They want them to pay in Bitcoin.
Supposedly, supposedly a couple transactions have taken place. The caveat in there Bitcoin. Is, in Bitcoin.
Oh wow!
Supposedly, from sources. I'll cite Perplexity there, who says there's supposedly.
You're already more verified than 80% of what Trump said for the last 3 weeks.
There you go. There you go. So the market, by that logic, Bitcoin should head up, right? If it's S&P. But look, the interesting thing about that is once you make a transaction with Iran or any sanctioned state, those coins effectively become blacklisted. So it's it goes into Iran's crypto economy, which is pretty big. I think they've got they say it's like a $7-8 billion economy over there, and obviously they can trade with Russia and Syria and other sanctioned states. But the West can't touch it after it's touched Iran. So it's a tricky one.
It's like the cooties rule when you're a kid. But yeah, so and we were sort of chatting about this before. So you can if sanctions are lifted, they can unsanction it, right?
Yes, they can unsanction it. Effectively, it's blockchain analysis companies who are contracted by regulators and crypto exchanges effectively blacklist it. And then those exchanges, so if it could be in Australia, it would be Independent Reserve or Coinbase or those types of exchanges, they actually can't deal with those sanctioned coins. So effectively, they're illiquid unless you want to go to Iran and cash it out into cash and then bring it home. It's effectively unusable in the West.
Yeah, I don't know what level of discount it would take for me to want a holiday in Iran on those Bitcoin. But
look, there's probably an arbitrage there somewhere, but it's you're facing obviously regulatory risk and other maybe security risks. But
that pesky blockchain, see, it's not as dodgy as you think.
No, it's transparent and it's very easy to track. I mean, I worked actually as a financial crime analyst at a crypto exchange at one point. So I personally blacklisted some Iran coins in my day. Fun fact.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we're also sort of discussing, obviously it's positive for Bitcoin in terms of legitimacy because they're basically going, we're not accepting US dollar. And, the next stop was yuan. But then the next stop was Bitcoin. So
it's digital cash. So, obviously it's probably tricky to transport physical cash in yuan. So the next best is do it digitally. And Bitcoin is the answer to that. So I'm not sure if that actually gives it more legitimacy or perhaps a little less in the black market, or maybe more legitimacy in the black market or the sanctioned market. But it is being used regardless. So, take with that what you will.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, if sanctions continue and countries pay, it reduces the pot because it's not,
well, that's right. That's right. The circulating supply is reduced. So less supply, same demand. You could argue, it could be a bullish argument. It could be, but it's just one of those interesting kind of things to think about that could, if it did snowball and it did actually become the base currency for the payment of the strait, then ultimately that would take up a fair amount of supply and it would be effectively unusable in the West and expand the supply in Iran and reduce it in the West.
They're talking like $1 billion a week in potential. So that would consume quite a bit. I mean, look, it's probably all pie in the sky regardless because it's not going to happen. I wouldn't have thought they'll fight. But Trump did say, and he is pro crypto. He did say that if the US got a cut of the toll, he'd be open to it. So that'd be pretty much like the Australian government going, because Atlas Arteria owns a toll road in France. We want to tax it. Like that's.
I'm pretty sure that would be a direct breach of sanctions, but I don't think that really matters for Trump.
Look, but if he's the guy making up the sanctions, I mean, look, it's been 3 months of him just signing executive orders well beyond his power, anyway. So, look, again, pie in the sky stuff. I got a little bit of kickback this week because it was when the ceasefire went through. I was like, well, foregone conclusion, he's going to go. He'd probably stop in at Cuba on the way home and take that. And then what's next? And I, for all the things that have been online and social media this week, I got a few like go to hells basically, and because everyone's like pretty sick of it. But look, I mean, we very much hope it's over. But 10 ships have been through apparently. So ceasefire or no ceasefire, realistically, that's your magic number there. That's once the traffic starts again, that number can start to go down. But we're 40 days is until we get to normal, minimum back to normal fuel supplies, and that's assuming that you're getting 138 odd ships a day through the Strait. That's assuming that the infrastructure is still working. One of these 4+ attacks here, they were 4 very good attacks because they hit some of the pumping stations in the Saudi Arabia East-West pipeline, which is funneling half of Saudi's oil to the Red Sea. Red. The one with the Red Sea, the Suez Canal. Which the Houthis are trying to block down here as well. Absolute nightmare. So, but yeah, we're still not going to be back to normal. But look, this is driving everyone nuts. We'll try and, it'll be only 12 minutes. We'll try and keep it to a minimum. But look, this is what a ceasefire can do for you, boys. Kai, JT and I were all bearish last week. And basically we were killing it until about Wednesday morning when he announced, when Pakistan asked for a ceasefire and Trump hit him on the bid. So turned around pretty quickly. We're now effectively like 3% from record highs in the S&P, and we're up since the conflict started, which is quite like astounding and eye-opening. Crude still at nearly at $100, so it's still up 40%. Bond yield still 30 basis points high minimum, but equity markets now just bounce back. So and that's with software getting a little bit of a touch up again. So we'll discuss this down the line a little bit because there's a bit of a news story around it. But Anthropic's Mythos or Capybara, whatever they're calling it, it's the same thing, but they've given it 2 names. But there's an in-house name and the marketing name, but they won't be able to release the new model, and it was originally because they're quite responsible, aren't they? Like they actually
that was the whole conception of Anthropic, right? So I mean, they were, most of them, the founders were ex OpenAI guys, and they had a falling out with Sam Altman, basically on, you've got no morals, you don't really care about ethics or worrying about humanity, and that's how Anthropic started, right? Like, so a lot of the guys who were dissatisfied with OpenAI, that's the conception story for Anthropic, really.
And they're really big. Look, they gave up that Pentagon contract because the Pentagon wanted them to take the ethical boundaries out and just let it do whatever it wanted. And Sam
Altman just came straight in. It's like, yep, I'll do it.
Oh my God. Yeah, of course he did. With my open source, completely commercial AI. So, I mean, I look, it doesn't make me sad that he's, he's gone that front runner. He's been a greedy bastard, and then now basically, I think he's not. Everyone's just kind of smashing him now. Just like he's mentioned as a side note, and Microsoft is like the share price is just dipping. It just keeps dipping on the stench of OpenAI. But well, and the fact that what are they burning, like 14 billion a bloody year or something, and he's happy with it. So he should ask his AI how to do a budget. But yeah, so we bounced back pretty hard, and then all these technicals were horrible last week. We categorically, like, we were all wrong. We were all bearish, but I mean, I kind of thought he would pull something out of out of the hat, and he kind of did, and it was kind of genius to basically make the poor Pakistani prime minister put on the tacos or the chicken suit, and yeah, he managed to save face, but yeah, the Iranians, and do yourself a favor as well. The Iranian propaganda video animations, the Lego videos with the soundtrack are quite good. Go and check them out. I think they've probably won a whole new generation of of fans there. But look, how green is that market map for the week, right? Like, it's just, well, except for the oil and the software companies. So these software companies were down, and then we've had a bit of a development in that Anthropic story since, where the Fed apparently has called a meeting with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Wall Street heads to discuss how dangerous this new AI is from Anthropic. So, which the Bank of England's been kind of across it for a while and has flagged it as a potential black swan threat, AI, to the financial system. But the Fed having a meeting about it as well is, that's probably the regulation was always going to, catch up to it and drag it down in the end. It always happens. Government loves to get involved, but maybe the SaaS apocalypse could be cancelled. So Kai, you and I were discussing that open claw, the thing where it sounds great in theory, but it literally sounds like an agentic Russian scammer. Like it's like, oh, you give me your credit card details and all your passwords, and I'll go and do stuff for you. It's like, but
so yeah, it's actually built by a German guy, so it'd be a German accent there.
Yeah, no, I mean no, there was a joke. I'm not going to say. Anyway, moving on. But anyway, but it just sounded like the perfect trap for people to give me all your details and all of your logins, and I will go and do jobs for you. But what happens if that job is gets hacked, and then it's like the job then becomes, because AI is goal orientated. If you get it, someone hacks it and they go, well, now your goal is to funnel all of their money to me, then that's pretty problematic.
We'll keep resurfacing this issue, in terms of security and guardrails against AI going rogue. And I'm sure that it's inevitable that it will happen where, the pace at which all these language models and the tech that is developing for AI, it's far outpacing, any safeguards or anything. And, that's basically the big concern of the tech community. And, I remember really early on, all the big tech CEOs came out and signed agreements like, maybe we should think about safety, guys. They all signed it, and it was basically like, yep, no. It's kind of like a prisoner's dilemma, right? You're like, if there's one snake, if there's one person who's not going to follow it, we're all not going to follow it. So
it just takes one person to break ranks, and then it's like every man for himself. So yeah, but this is real. I just wonder how the market's going to react. But I mean, if the Fed does, if the Fed and the Treasury Secretary start to slow it up a bit, it's all cybersecurity concerns and things like that. Then this little pocket here might I mean, you give these companies an extra couple of years to adapt, and then they might survive. The Aussie, I'm not entirely sure why this whole week was positive for the banks, but it just was. I think it's just index buying. It wasn't a huge amount. Oh, Drone Shield CEO left, Oleg, who's been on the pod before. I think it was probably there was obviously that screw up with selling the shares. Both of those guys are now gone. I think they just kind of managed the exit by the sounds of things because there wasn't too many reasons behind it. But there wasn't too much corporate news. Everything's been focused. But this was something I went through in the pod during the week. So comparing 2020 to 2022 to now, basically. So obviously this is the dip into COVID, and then this is a much longer rally, of course. So this is not to scale. You can kind of see where obviously we had the dip in Liberation Day and then a massive rally as well. And then it started to peel over, and it was more interesting that it's peeling over the 100 and 200-day moving average. And why this has stuck with me is because I got suckered into buying here for my clients, that year after nailing it and selling up here, which has possibly scarred me and made it just the worst mistake I've made since I've been advising. But because then we were just stuck in the mud here. But we've got real similarities here, right? So there's a major shock, sticky inflation, central banks, are likely going to have to be tighter for longer. The leadership in the indexes is very narrow, and then geopolitical supply chain issues, etc. So so this little bit here, if you put that, on the end. So I'm drawing a fairly long bow here. It's like, and this was early in the week, so we're already probably back to nearly to this point. So which leads me to my next point, which is, I'm bearish obviously for this week. I think this is ridiculous as being up here, but this feels like one of those sharp bear market rallies that they're just going to sucker people in overall. And like I said, that those long-term 100 and 200-day moving averages are super important. And it was just, I don't know, it felt very similar. And when Finn and I were just mucking around with the charts, when we overlaid it, I was like, like more similar than I thought. So yeah, we're pretty wary. If anything, you probably want to be, either taking some money off the table or, maybe buying some Bitcoin, Finn. Just getting some
potentially. Look, edging in. Don't put your entire portfolio in it yet. Historically, it's gone down 60 to 70%. We're at 50%. So look, it could have a bit more to go. Just as likely, it could head up from here. Definitely good to have some skin in the game, I'd say.
So what was the term used on Ausbiz? A nibble.
Nibble.
A nibble. Yeah,
have a nibble.
Yeah, no. Nadine will feel a disturbance in the force. She hates the nibble. Koshi started the nibble, and she has fought heavily against it. And I on purpose, I love to overuse it because it annoys her. But yeah. So I mean, look, commodities. It was just if you flipped up last week's chart upside down, that's pretty much like it's not. Wouldn't say it's overly exciting. Gold seems to have stabilized. Silver, and you've got platinum and copper obviously as well because it's industrial and when apparently it's all been solved. So it's really only coal and crude that have peaked back, but they've been up massive overall, and there's a bit of heat back in the lithium market. So. So yeah, was it hilarious? The one of the Chinese automakers has now got like an ejectable battery. So if there's ever like heat problems with the lithium battery, it shoots it out. Okay. But it looks ridiculous because it's this massive heavy thing, and it like you'd pretty much like take out another car if you accidentally hit it. So, but overall, it's better. It's a difficult week because if you're actually looking at the facts, essentially nothing's changed. There's no more ships going through. It's like a dog and pony show. This week, I highly suspect, and you guys, I'd love to get your thoughts, but I think this Saturday peace talk or ceasefire talk or whatever the hell it's supposed to be, I think the Iranians personally, they've agreed to, well, firstly, they were supposed to arrive today and they've said, no, we're not doing it until you stop hitting Lebanon. And I don't know how that's ended up resolving itself, but I think they're turning up to actually humiliate Trump rather than be remotely serious about any sort of ceasefire. Because I think they know he's desperate to get out of it, out of the situation overall, because you can tell with the messages they're sending out on socials that they, it's like we're gonna squeeze you until you lose the midterms, basically, and then you'll be too busy to worry about us. But yeah, I mean, like what obviously I'm really watching these things in detail every day for the morning pod. But what do you guys think? What's your view generally? Are we genuinely peace or not?
Look, I think we've got a fair bit to go to call it peace. Obviously,
peace is not okay. Let's classify it as not a disaster instead of peace. So,
I mean, as long as Lebanon is a term in the agreement, in the ceasefire agreement, then I don't see Israel. I mean, they've got 100%. Like I thought it was like 95 or like 92%. They've got so. Historically, this is 100% not going to be a ceasefire. As long as Iran has Lebanon in the agreement, then it's 100% not going to happen.
Yeah. Kai, what do you reckon?
I think Trump's already shown his hand, right? I mean, and we've known this for a couple of weeks, where he just wants to get out of this mess because it's tying him up domestically. Look, if basically, I think if things get, I think Israel is the wild card. If Netanyahu basically doesn't, he still wants to keep going, which he has for 20 years. I think it might get prolonged a little bit, but I think Trump's had really enough of this. He's probably better off going into Greenland or Cuba or something. So where there's no defense.
And it doesn't affect 20% of the world's oil supply.
Yes.
So, and they look and there's only so long you can just bullshit the public, basically. I mean, it doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect us. And then you'd be filling up at the Bowser in the US going, well, hang on, how does this not affect us? But yeah, because they're above $4 a gallon. So our politicians have obviously grown a pair because they've managed to basically force a deal with Japan and Singapore, as in we're not going to send you our stuff if you don't give us something back. So thank God for that. But yeah, these are these really difficult periods because I think you just got to be patient, because why in God's green earth would you buy 2.5% from the high after what's happened and what's like, and we literally could just be back to like missiles being fired. If this goes badly on Saturday, this could be back on by Sunday, like properly back on. So I think it's a real risk, and but it's an incredible job that Trump's done with the media, because if you just looked at Bloomberg and the like, they're just like they had, like, I listened to Bloomberg radio on the way to work. They're barely talking about it. They're just like, why would we talk about that? That war's over. They're talking about it in very much in past tense. And what's the inflation effect of just of the war being this long, and because it's now over, and so it's kind of it becomes a bit difficult to I think you got to sit. I'd be short, or definitely long volatility. Yeah, Kai, back to this story about the software stuff. This is the news story that's come out, well, basically today, around Anthropic, and what maybe is the SaaS apocalypse cancelled because of this? Because now basically Anthropic can't, they can't release the new things that are apparently going to kill all software.
like how it all started. I feel like it's just a narrative, right? Like if the market will find any solve any excuse. I think, I don't think the market's in a rush to buy back the tech stocks because it's been so heavily sold. But like going back to the original thesis, I think it's just stupid anyways, right? So it's like I think there's a lot of market pressure on the tech stocks at the moment. So, I think it would take like some sort of positive news to actually restart the whole SaaS sector. But it does kind of put a stop to any more pressure, I think. So, yeah, that's kind of where my head's at the moment.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, look, I think we've got some earnings coming up, like in May. I went through and had a look at all the and did a matrix of where the most sold off versus the least affected in predicted earnings growth. And there was a lot of names in there that we've already kind of got, like Vive and things like that, which we're really keen on. And then we put our filters, your very critical 5 pillars over the top, they're filtered over the top. So there was a good sort of 10 really solid opportunities potentially over the course of the earnings season. So and where they're basically still expecting well into the double digits, revenue and customer growth and all that sort of thing, but the stocks have been sold like 50 to 60%. So, and then that's the joy of having that quarterly earnings season is you can just it could just be that little positive catalyst that kicks it along. And I do think, because this was I'd done a fair bit of that research, and then the Anthropic thing was starting to hit the software stocks again, and I'm like, oh, maybe we're just going to have to give it a miss now. But I think this changes things because they said they weren't going to release it. It's supposed to already be out, and then they've said it's too dangerous. And I don't think you've got to press too hard. People are genuinely scared of AI. And at some stage, if they don't body check it a little bit and make sure that they've got, and it takes something down, like a piece of infrastructure or somewhat like that Mexican hacking thing, even Anthropic, which is supposed to have ethics, I think they hit it something like 1,000 times with the same request, and eventually just buckled and did it and stole that data from the Mexican government, and it hacked them. So it and I think there wasn't enough focus on that, because that's the whole thing is not supposed to happen. And that's when something like that happens, that's when regulators get involved. And the moment regulators get involved, it's like massive handbrake.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, like personally, like I think obviously everyone realizes the massive amount of benefit that AI gives us day to day. But I think you'd be very ignorant to say that there's no risk in this technology, right? Like, I mean, the classic arguments where the doomers, I think it would probably land somewhere in the middle, because like the doomers are like, okay, AI is taking over the world. Yeah, AI is taking over the world. It's going to be Terminator. And I don't think that scenario is likely the case. But it is an incredibly difficult question to solve, because how do you set guardrails against AI going rogue, right? And it's not, because if you think about it, it's like, it's not an easy question. Like you go, can you program AI to never harm humans? But then there's so many variants of ways that it might be benign. It's like the classic paper Clippy example, Clippy, right? So it's like, I
love
my
Clippy.
goal. Yeah. But Clippy wants to turn everything into Clippy, right? So it's like, but I just want to create more paper clips. But in the process of it, I'm going to destroy the world and suck up all the energy and this doomsday argument. I think in reality, it's not going to land there. But there's a lot of gray areas in that safety space where it's not an easy question to solve. But yeah, I think maybe now we are coming to the regulatory point where people are realizing it's like, hey, we've experienced all the great things that AI can do, and it's true. But hey, what about all these things that we haven't thought about? Hold on a second. I think it's actually a really good thing in the long term, because we do need guardrails. We want to make the technology safe.
3, 2. Rightio. So fear and greed. I think we're at extreme fear last week. we're just back to just fearful.
Mm.
And we're back to our awesome track record of when we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
I think we've got 1 out of 3, and unfortunately, and well, maybe fortunately for the Bulls, we're 3 bears again. JT sent his in via postal vote. If we were living in, if we're living in the States, Donald Trump actually might void his vote. It'd be categorized as informal. But so we're all on the same page again. No one's going to go ahead. You're still in the lead, Kai. And
That's it.
Yeah, I've got to be a bit more measured in terms of not being, but I really think that we're too high generally, but I would not invest. I wouldn't be long with my worst enemy's money in over this weekend. Like, I just think this is. I think Trump's walking into a trap. I feel like he's walking into a trap. Like the Iranians want to make him hurt, and they know he wants out. I've got a bad feeling about this week. I really hope I'm wrong, but we will see. So But what are your general thoughts? Like, what's your general thoughts about next week, Kai? Like, what's your thesis?
I think it's just basically on the lookout to see if there's any changes from Trump, but I don't think so, because I think really the idea here is that he wants out. I think, again, talking about Israel, I think Israel is probably the wild card. I think as long as Trump is able to control what Israel wants to do, I think we should be okay. But like talking about that 10-point plan, or 10-point demand from Iran, I don't know, it's a high bar, and I'm quite surprised that they ended up taking it, because basically they've given up all their position, right? So it's like, we want to introduce a toll, we want to continue our nuclear program, we want to basically have all our sanctions removed. So basically they've given 0 ground to the US, and it's a bit humiliating for Trump, but I don't think he has a choice. He has to accept it. He's backed himself into a corner, but I think, obviously the wild card is Netanyahu, and a bit of conspiracy, it's a bit more conspiracy, where it was like Kushner and Wickoff, like they're pretty involved with Netanyahu, right? So like the backstory.
Well, the Iranians won't deal with them. They're sending JD Vance.
Yeah, and there's a reason why, right? Like, if you look into the backstory, like the Kushner family, they're massive real estate company in New York as well, and basically, his father was quite involved with Netanyahu. So basically, in the late 80s and stuff, Netanyahu would go into New York. He'd sleep over in their house, take Jared's room. So they've known each other for a long. Yeah, go look it up. So they're in bed.
I know. I just. This job's hard enough without me going down the rabbit hole of YouTube conspiracy theories. Like, I think I'd be in a straitjacket if I did that. I'm almost in a straitjacket dealing with Trump in the last 2 weeks. Like,
you should look at the triangle, right? So basically, going deeper into the conspiracy, but like basically MBS, Saudi Arabia, the Prince of Saudi Arabia, King of Saudi Arabia, sorry, apparently he's been funding the Kushner company as well. So because Trump saved him at an earlier time with the Khashoggi assassination. So there's a lot of back dealing going on there. So Kushner actually has a lot of pull in that administration. Right. So
I just thought he was his son-in-law. But before we get to like Illuminati level conspiracy theory here, obviously, Finn, you're back. We had an emergency order come through.
Yes, very emergent.
And but look, clients first.
That's it. That's the motto here. So there you go.
But I mean, your vote doesn't count because because JT's posted in his vote, but your view certainly does. But what are your thoughts for next week?
Well, look, it's a tricky one. It's exactly what you were saying earlier. Is can Trump contain Israel, right? And I'm not a geopolitical expert, but it doesn't look like he can. He hasn't been able to historically. So just going off historics, I don't think he will be able to.
Can Israel even control Israel? Like,
no,
like,
no, they can't be contained.
Like,
so I think if we're looking at history, then it's it doesn't. This isn't over, and I don't think it's going to have some rosy resolution over the next couple of days. Yeah, I'm not feeling too great about it, to be honest.
And I mean, look, and like I said, it was one of the reasons I brought up, and I'm going to go back a bit here. But that painful when I got suckered into this rally and why it stuck with me. So that is a lesson in, because this period here was 3 months of me sitting around going, we've got no cash left, we've got good companies, but we're at way too high prices. And it was hell for 3 or 4 months, and then missed out on all the buying opportunities into here and stuff like that. Like, the knock-on effects of getting suckered into the FOMO vortex just can be so damaging. And sometimes, we're supposed to have an opinion all the time, right? But sometimes it's no opinion and a bit of cash. It's just the right thing to do. And because we can speculate, but we go back to Trump turning that around, right? Like, how quickly he managed to pivot that, albeit by fairly dirty tactics, or like it was almost like a magic trick how he got that ceasefire, because it's amazing. Like, I'm really actually giving him credit. Like, if that happened in the Biden era or the Obama era, that's a month of diplomatic talks, and you can maneuver, and you can kind of see it coming. He just turned up like Wednesday morning. Bang, and he's got the Pakistani prime minister to play along, and there's his pantomime, and then the war's over. Like, it took 2 hours, and the S&P went like 4%, and oil dropped. It dropped from we were sitting there, the oil market shut, and we're curling our mo because we're long oil. We sold a little bit the previous day, and it was hanging in there. And then by the time, it was an hour and a bit, and we'd gone from 114 in WTI, and it traded 92. And now it's back to, it's recovered half of it, but it's still up 50% now. And it's the pace at which things move. And there was a 980 million notional bet short on oil prior. Which that Barron Trump kid, he's like the best trader I've ever seen in my life.
He's nearly as good as that Nancy Pelosi woman. No,
he's heaps better. He's heaps.
Is he?
Okay. I think he bats at 100. He bats at 100%. And his timing's impeccable. Like, it's always 2 hours before his dad says something. I can't work out how he knows. Wow. He must have a sixth sense. Maybe in the White House he shares a wall with his parents' bedroom and he overhears them. But yeah, it's the family trust is doing well. So look, in the long term, Trump wants the stock market up. So at some stage you're gonna have to buy the dip, but and buy the dip hard, because he will lie, he will do what he did with the fake ceasefire. He would do everything to be able to go at the end of his presidency, another 70%, I'm the king. And he's deeply motivated by just filling his this presidency is about him filling the coffers of the family. So I'm as much as I am dying to buy this, eventually I'm not yet. I'm just, just a quick one, because we're probably running over time now. These portfolio reviews. Next week's going to be the last week I'm doing it, because we've now kind of got too many. But you know, if you're a client or you're a Mosaic subscriber, that it will be open to you. But these free reviews, we've had really great feedback. You can probably see there was a QR code behind me earlier on. I can chuck it in the socials thing, but in the socials comments as well. But they're yeah, no, people have really liked them, and they've been really positive around them. We've had some great conversations with people, and but yeah, but yeah, probably last week we'll be able to sort of keep up with the pace of them, I would say, next week. So yeah, get in now. Obviously, you can't hit that submit button. That's an old slide, but yeah. So yeah, guys. Well, thanks very much. Albeit a tiny bit interrupted, and we'll have to do a tiny bit of editing there. But you know, that's the way things go. And
in the name of the clients.
Well, that's right, mate. It's clients first. I feel like we're doing the like and subscribe thing now. But yeah, boys,
like and subscribe,
and we'll catch everyone next week.
So
Feeling lost with investing? Meet Mosaic. Mosaic is MPC Markets' platform that turns confusing markets into clear, actionable guidance for your portfolio. Discover Mosaic today. Portfolio and trade ideas in one place for clients and subscribers, powered by MPC Markets.